What's going on, YouTube? Thanks for tuning into the channel. It's your boy Devin Coates. Just coming to you with another book review. This is Sigmund Freud, Civilization and its Discontents. Actually, I borrowed this from a friend, so appreciate that. But picked it up. I just saw it on the bookshelf where she had it, and it's just a book that I've heard so many, like Ty Lopez, Brandon Carter, mention a lot, and I just figured it's just something I might as well just jump into and read. One thing I'll just kind of really just start off. It was written in like a past, time, so it is a little bit dense. I believe it was translated as well, because I believe Sigmund Freud is German, so I think it was written in German and translated. Regardless, it's compared to like my other book reviews, this book is a little bit harder to get through just because of the language, and I did kind of catch myself, and it was a good challenging, because I did catch myself sometimes reading stuff and then feeling like I didn't really know where it was going just because of the way the language was presented. But to just jump right into it, one of the big things that I was looking to learn from it was, we either move towards pleasure or move away from pain in order to make decisions and pretty much drive us. He did touch on that, and that was really the big thing that I had heard about the book before I got into it. But really what he's kind of talking about is how civilization actually kind of takes away certain parts of like your happiness, and he doesn't really pick a side, or I don't want to say there's no point, but it's not like, you do this to succeed. It's like kind of like an objective look at just what happens, and I'll just kind of take a few of my big takeaways. So one of the big things is that you pretty much have like an ego and what he calls a super ego, and I'll kind of just combine those in just so that this doesn't take too long. But at first, you want to obviously do things for yourself, to survive for yourself. So he talks about that as like sexual, and then he also talks about in terms of natural selection and obviously Darwinism, we are aggressive towards other humans and other beings in general just because we need to survive. So that is like your natural state, and that's what your ego is gonna look to fulfill, is like your basic needs of survival, and that's where it's gonna go, and that's where your aggressiveness is. And this is kind of tied in too with, he says, the two forces within you. So you have a death force, which would be the aggressiveness, is that you're trying to destroy things, kill stuff, break stuff, destroy it. And then the eros, which is like the love and more of like the survival and group thinking part of you. So that's where you want to obviously you're more productive as a group, and you want to work together with others, and then obviously we have to mate to even have children. So that's where he puts the love, and he just talks about it as like it's these two competing forces. So obviously if everybody could just kill each other, we would all die, and there would be no protection. So that is something civilization does provide, is kind of a backbone to support that. You don't have to like fear constantly that like as a father, he talks about like when you have a son that he's going to kill you when he turns 20, you don't have to worry that your neighbor's going to kill you and things like that. And one of the ways he kind of exemplifies this dichotomy, if you will, is that one of the terms, it's in the Bible, and I guess that's where he's taking it from, is like love thy neighbor as oneself. And he's like, at first glance, since we're ingrained in the civilization, that sounds like it makes sense, but that actually is crazy and insane and makes absolutely no sense. Like, how can you ever love somebody that's not you, that you don't know, just as much as yourself? And that is something that is where like it's causing this discontent, because you're actually, the reason why that's presented is so that you don't kill your neighbor and you don't have to fear being killed. But now that is a restriction upon you on solving your own needs. The same way, I'm not, and just as the book is, I'm not trying to take any sides on anything, but like to fulfill your needs, a sexual need, back in the day, like 20,000 years ago, you probably could just go rape whatever woman you want. And civilization will put a block on that because that wouldn't be beneficial for the group as a whole. And he kind of explains that, yeah, this sounds like, when he starts explaining the current civilization and the time that he wrote, that it sounds like this is all bad. But if you go back in time, I mean, the restrictions are even worse before his time, and he makes note to that like, it's not like all civilization is bad, and as it progresses it just gets worse. I mean, very primitive societies, you're probably restricted even more so than you're restricted these days. And if you go back to pre-society, you actually had to worry about way more external factors that you don't have to worry about within a civilization. So now getting to the superego. So things will stay on the love thy neighbor thing, and then he also talks about ethics and stuff like that. And this is where the superego comes into effect. So your ego understands, so if an authority says that, you know, if you kill somebody, you get the death penalty. Your ego understands that once you do that, you might feel remorse for what you did, and then you might feel guilty as well because you committed an action, killed somebody, and you know that there is going to be a repercussion from authority. When authority applies that to you, you understand that you shouldn't do that again. Or a better example would probably be stealing, because you'll get like a second chance. So you get thrown in jail for a year. Now you understand from actions that you've taken that that was a bad action. But the superego, what he talks about, is that even before you do the action and just having the intent of doing the action, that because some of these societal norms are ingrained in us, we have a part in our brain that actually makes us feel bad before we even did the wrongdoing, which keeps you from actually committing the act. So it's very easy to understand that, you know, it's just kind of like normal conditioning experiments. You know, you do A and then you get shocked with B, that you won't do it. But it's a whole different idea that somebody tells you that if you do A and you get B, that you'll get a certain consequence, like a shock. And then when you think about doing A, you feel guilty, and you give yourself, hold yourself in the check to not get shocked, even though you've never even experienced that. It's like, and that is kind of what civilization is built on. It's a bunch of these rules, which our superego is making us feel guilty of before they even occur, which holds us back. And what I really take from this for myself is that how many times are there things that are social norms we don't really, honestly, might even not even believe in, when we just take for granted, that keeps us from doing stuff. And he's kind of just explains how this leads to a lot of unhappiness and neuroticism, and that a lot of neuroticism is that the social norms are holding us from executing what our ego or the end result of us really wants, to like feel happiness. And since civilization has imposed that you can't do that, we have a part in our brain that's holding us back from doing it, and then it creates these like psychological problems within yourself. And it was really interesting when he kind of talked about ethics, and towards the end about how like they don't really exist. Like really the only idea of ethics is and one could be love thy neighbor as oneself. It's like that doesn't really like help your lot in life directly in any way. You know, it would probably help you more if you took all their stuff and then benefited from it. But ethics are created as a way for you to feel better than other people. At least this is what he says. Feel better than other people, to keep you from doing stuff that if everybody did it would cause harm. But it doesn't actually help you. It's like these promises for a better tomorrow that never come, that you just feel better about for your whole life. Whereas if you just took all their stuff, you probably actually do better. But then again, that's where the superego comes in. You would feel guilty for doing that, even though theoretically, if you're just thinking about yourself, that would be the most beneficial for you. And in the animal kingdom, those are like things that'll happen. They'll just take people's stuff. It's not anything your sons will just come and kill you when they become of age to have their own clan. So there's many things like that. But all in all, what I really took from the book is to really take a scope at certain things that our civilization is kind of inhibiting on myself, or other things that maybe I feel guilty about, I don't act on, but really aren't going to cause harm to a bunch of other people. It's just something I've taken for granted, and to kind of go against those and kind of reevaluate why I'm taking those actions. Definitely the whole moving away from pain, moving towards pleasure, and really what's driving your actions, that was something else I took from the book. But all in all, I thought it was a great read. It's a little bit different. It's not like a self-development or motivational book, but it was put a very interesting spin and way of looking at civilization, and what it actually is accomplishing, and how it's working for me. And it's something I'll probably revisit again. Also, just in terms of the reading, it was definitely a lot more, you had to stay a lot more focused while you're reading to really understand some of the points, just because the writing was very different from a lot of the books that I'm reading on a daily basis today. So I thought it was a great read. I would 100% suggest you to read this and not rely on my review, because I mean, there's definitely parts of the book that I'm not embarrassed to say, definitely and probably more than I even noticed went over my head. But what I really just took from it was just really looking at maybe some of the things that I feel like I'm kind of neurotic about, or things that I'm doing, and how that civilization is not necessarily designed to benefit the individual. It's like designed to benefit the group. And then the last thing I'll leave to you is he kind of talks about cultural pathology. So the superego causing some of this neuroticism within people, cultures can have a pathology as well, and have their own neurosis. And he says it's like impossible to really prove, because how are you can do a study to see if somebody has, like, OCD by, you test them, and then you take a control group of normal individuals, and then the normal individuals, your stable datum, they fall somewhere outside, so obviously they have a disorder. If everybody in the group has the same disorder, how do you differentiate that? So he goes into that, but it's clearly possible from everything described throughout the book. But just kind of reevaluating how society and civilization is acting upon me, how I can respond to definitely benefit myself, but it also obviously does have its own benefits. I don't have to worry about getting shot and killed and just like tortured just because it's dark out. Like if you go 20,000 years back, I mean, that is definitely, I mean, anything could happen. A fucking mountain lion could just come and just snatch you up. So, I mean, that's it for this one. Like, comment, subscribe, dislike if you didn't like the video. Any feedback I appreciate. Civilization and its Discontents, Sigmund Freud. Very good read. A little bit more difficult than the other books I've reviewed in the past. But it's something great to pick up. Until next time, peace.